What's going on there, guys? Good morning, good afternoon to some out there. It's the Earthmaster here on this beautiful Tuesday, October 11th, 2022. It's about 11:51 a.m. California time here along the West Coast, where we have a 1.4 earthquake, the latest quake on the earthquake 3D globe. A little bit of movement out here, I would say, around the Indonesia area through Papua New Guinea. Quite a cluster of quakes, actually. Let's go ahead and check out space weather activity first here. From the solarham.net website. We did have some M-flare activity overnight, including an M4, almost a 3.9 coming in. That was from sunspot 3112. There is the sunspot, or the flare that kind of kicked up there to the M4 range almost, there in the red. Kind of a little heightened activity as that sunspot turns away from us. That's going to be this massive one right here, 3112. The most recent imagery right here, though, shows it much further towards the western limb. And, it was facing us for quite a while. And all of a sudden, once it turns away from us, then it wants to fire up some flares. So, go figure. Some further activity here, it looks like, from a different sunspot. It's getting a little bit of complex magnetic fields associated with it. We'll have to watch that one closely, although that one's in a position where it is Earth-facing. Should anything pop off, but it is starting to rotate further to the west as well. And that's going to be sunspot 3119, which is, this is kind of an older image here, so it's a little bit more positioned here further to the right on the western side of the sun. See what else we got here. KP index there, pretty low, looking green across the board. No major expected storming far as the 3-day geomagnetic unrest forecast goes. Things pretty calm for the current aurora. There is that 3.9 that kicked off there from 3112 earlier, actually late last night, I should say. The active region looks like it will remain a threat for an isolated moderate M-flare. 3119, the one that I kind of showed you towards the center disk of the sun, shows sign of development during the past 24 hours and will be a threat for at least some minor C-flares. No major coronal holes facing us. Looks like we could be entering into a period of some quiet solar activity after these pass on by. So I want to start up here into the Alaska region, where we have seen a little bit of activity kind of ramping up here along the plate boundary of the North American plate and the Pacific plate, and also up here in the area of the BC region, Kansas, kind of stretching here into Alaska as well. We've seen some 3s and 2s kick up overnight, an overall sign of some increasing movement here along the plate boundary itself. Not a whole lot further south, but further west here along the Aleutian Trench, seen some activity as well. Looks like that 4.7 though coming in late afternoon time frame. Some further movement overnight there with a couple 3s. But the big picture is a lot of movement over here, as noted on the Earthquake 3D globe. Of course, this is a 4.5 or 4.0 and above map, so it's not showing all these 3s that are indicated on the globe. But we're seeing a swarm of activity up here around this region towards the Java Trench and all across the Indonesia Islands area. Let's go ahead and zoom in and check out the movement here. Looks like the latest quake shows a 4.9 earthquake into the Tonga Trench, way down there at about 538 kilometers below the surface. That earthquake coming in about 4 hours ago. Of course, there's some newer movement here in the 3 category and some smaller quakes, but as far as 4.0 and above, these are it. Vanuatu area seen some activity as well, somewhat deep. Seen a 5.3 earlier this morning as well. Overall, seismic activity on the move today throughout the Indonesia region and up around the Taiwan area, where we've seen a 5.7 come in. That was coming in yesterday afternoon time frame. See what we got for local activity here around Japan. Most of this here, some older movement. Looks like we did have a 4.6 into the Japan Trench at about 35 kilometers deep for that 4.6, just offshore. But overall seismic activity definitely increasing within this area today. One earthquake here around the Java Trench, that one coming in overnight, 4.9. Afghanistan area, I believe this is from last night. 5.1 was. It looks like we did have some activity further to the west overnight, still within Afghanistan there, 4.9. Over here around the Turkey area, that one coming in looks like just a little bit ago. I was at 15:48 UTC time, so about 3 hours or so ago. Seen a pretty good quake. Well, not a big quake, but a moderate-sized quake out here around the plate boundary. Little complex system here within this region of Turkey. Very active in terms of historical data. Looking at some potentials there. I've seen looks like 5s to 6s out there in the region of this area. Quite a bit of historical data out here in this region of the plate boundary. The Atlantic Ocean, not a whole lot. Just got one earthquake here, 5.2 near the Ascension Island area. That one coming in earlier this morning time frame. Divergent boundary. Also down here in the South Sandwich Islands area, 4.8 into the southern end of the subduction zone here. South Sandwich Trench at about 35 kilometers deep. South America has been really spotty in terms of earthquake activity. I know we have some 3s listed on the globe here for this region, but not a whole lot above that. Only one 4.5. This one coming in yesterday afternoon time frame. No further activity noted there as far as 4.0 and above goes. Puerto Rico area looking like a little bit of swarming up here north of Puerto Rico. Don't believe we've seen this last night. Looks like most of it overnight time frame. Couple 3s kicking up there in that area, Puerto Rico. Let me bring up the all magnitudes here for this region and see what we got. Of course, swarming activity continues around the southwestern portion as normal. One earthquake here along the east coast out in Virginia. Wow. 2.2 at 11 kilometers deep. It kind of looks like that's in the area where that 5-pointer struck here a few years back. Let me see exactly. Can't remember exactly where it was located at. I remember back in 2000, man, it's been a while. 2011, 2012, I think. Maybe even prior to that. They had that, I believe it was a 5.7 kicking off out here. So fault systems are active. Out here. Let me see if I can bring my voice back. I want to bring up the U.S. hazard map. Let me grab a drink here real quick. And of course, Virginia sits within that zone of activity. I believe that 5.7 struck right here in this region a few years back. And that 2.2 striking within that fault hazard zone today. Just kind of goes to show you that things are still active out there. Not as active in as the West Coast, but things can be. Got to watch things out there. Appalachian Mountains, a lot of older faults out there. I'm sure some unknown faults as well that yet to be discovered. Arkansas, 2.2. That one coming in looks like overnight time frame. This is just outside of the New Madrid fault zone. Another player producing some major quakes out there. It does sit kind of within the outer boundaries here of the New Madrid zone. Of course, here in the red, in this color, that's the specific fault system there of the New Madrid seismic zone. Definitely capable of producing some large earthquakes, and it did back in the 1800s. Oklahoma. See what we got here. Looks like a little bit further activity north of the Kingfisher area. This area has been swarming quite nicely over the last 7 days. We've got about 100 earthquakes in just specifically in this area, which is a little uncommon. Of course, Oklahoma sees earthquake activity. There's a lot of pumping operations, and there's some fault systems out here. Wichita Mountains and areas over here to the southeast. But to see a swarm of almost 100 earthquakes confined to one zone is a little bit puzzling here. Let's bring up the satellite. All these little squares here, of course, are a not a beautiful Oklahoma farmhouse out there in the prairie. Those are some pumping operations out there, oil operations, oil fields. And these right here, it's kind of hard to tell if these are active or not. Some of these look like they're deserted. Meaning that they're not operational anymore, but it's kind of hard to tell Just here with the Google Earth Maps on the browser. If I were to open up Google Earth specifically, we could probably zoom in a little bit closer. But this area is swarming. Okay, there's a little bit better view of it. Kind of stretches out. You guys see that? On the map here, it kind of looks like it's confined to one area, but it's kind of spread out over a mile or so. Uncertain exactly if there's any fault systems out there. Obviously, there's quite a bit of oil fields. You can see them all over the place out there in Oklahoma. Let me bring up the U.S. hazard map here and see what we got. As far as the USGS goes, let me get rid of some of this here. Of course, the Wichita Mountains stretches over here. Got USGS issuing that area for hazard, but the swarm kind of kicks off here to the north and out of the main boundaries of those hazard zones. So uncertain as to exactly what's going on there. Something to watch, I believe, pretty closely. Let me see if I can bring up. Hold on, stand by for just a second here. Ah, goodness. Of course, USGS only showing that one fault fracture down here up against the military reservation out there. It looks like. I was hoping they would include more. That's going to be that little fault system here that was listed on the hazard map. But man, just kind of puzzling. Kind of curious as to see what that's heading towards. I don't know if it's heading towards something bigger or not. Looks like the largest magnitude is a 3.4, but it's a pretty good cluster of earthquakes just for one area. I find that kind of odd. So we will watch that here, as we're still seeing some activity ramping up there over the last 24 hours. Texas, not a whole lot going on. Just a couple out west, and we got one oddball quake here near Smiley, Texas. That always keeps popping up. Always keeps popping up out there. See what we got out here, shall we? Satellite view. What is that? Bunch of community houses out there in Texas? No. Those are all oil pumping operations out here. A little bit closer in view shows that they are in operation. And that 2.7 sits pretty darn close here within the oil fields that are thousands upon thousands of them out there in Texas. All right, let's head west. Westward we go. Oklahoma. Wyoming, still seeing some activity up here. Yellowstone National Park. Couple earthquakes. It looks like it's listed there on the map. I do want to check out the Yellowstone thumbnails, which look somewhat active overnight period. It looks like some of these earthquakes here. Those are the ones being listed up on the USGS map. A little spotty, but an ongoing swarm of earthquake activity. It seems like every single day over the past 6 weeks. No major earthquake movement, no major intense swarm, but just an ongoing daily thing there at Yellowstone National Park. All right, let's see what we got here in California. A little bit of movement into the northern part of the state, including out here. Latest one. Looks like we got a 2.9 at 23 kilometers deep into the Gorda Plate. Gorda Plate's going to be, you can pretty much draw a little imaginary line here across the region. This is going to be the Gorda Plate. Technically 3 separate plates here. A lot of people just call this the Juan de Fuca Plate as a whole, but there's actually 3 separate little bitty microplates there being shoved underneath the North American plate here, called the this area plate boundary is a major subduction zone, Cascadia subduction zone. Looks like a little bit of movement. See when this was here. Go back to the newest one. Looks to be that one I just clicked on, the 2.5 at 21 kilometers deep. That one kicking up here just a short time ago. Also overnight, little 2-pointer So looks like things are kind of ramping up here slightly into Northern California area. Washington, outside of Mount Rainier. I had a weird dream about Mount Rainier, that it blew its top. It's really weird. I can't remember the specifics of it. Either way, a little bit of earthquake activity outside of the Mount Rainier region. We'll check out the seismographs there in a second at that location. Movement north of Lake Tahoe, it looks like, in Nevada. This is the state line here, 2.8 near the Florestan, California area, and a 0.9 kicking up there. Latest earthquake here looks like a little activity. This is the Antelope Valley area close to it. Not Southern California Antelope Valley, but up here near Colville, very less populated than the other Antelope Valley. It's been a little quiet here recently. This area has been seeing some swarming over the past few months, but things very quiet. Got 1.4 today there. Long Valley supervolcano, a couple earthquakes there outside of the caldera rim. 2.3 looks to be the largest. And as far as further down south goes, not a whole lot. Looks like a very typical day here with the microquakes on the San Jacinto fault zone. Movement up through western Nevada as well. No major adjustments or earthquake activity taking place there. Check out the Big Island. Mauna Loa looks like it's still swarming. A 2.3 earthquake, the latest there on the map. Going to go ahead and check out the HANS notification system. USGS is issuing the daily updates there on Kilauea and also the Mauna Loa volcano. And it looks like this one was just put out a little bit ago, a couple hours ago. Of course, Kilauea volcano still continues to erupt, and all that is confined to the crater. No recent, or at least no significant changes there noted at Kilauea. For Mauna Loa, things still sitting at advisory in yellow. The volcano is not erupting, and there are no signs of an imminent eruption at this time. However, the earthquake activity there is kind of above background levels, along with inflation of the summit. This current unrest is most likely being driven by renewed input of magma 2 to 5 miles, 3 to 8 kilometers beneath the Mauna Loa summit. So no major adjustments, it looks like. And the latest activity still shows, some earthquake activity up there. It's a deeper ones that I'm kind of watching, where the magma is below. We've been seeing a little bit of swarming over here. Actually, it's been over a week, so we'd have to pull up the all magnitudes map here, 30 days. And this is the activity I was kind of watching there for some deeper movement. The summit activity seems to be pretty shallow, but we got deeper movement of magma just to the west. Just to the west of this little swarm, or large swarm. I shouldn't say little swarm, actually kind of a large swarm out there in Mauna Loa. Some other activity here around Pahala. Let's see what else we got. Let's check out the tremor map. Of course, last night tremor was pretty active. 620 tremors along the Cascadia. Again, mostly confined to the Oregon area. This has been an ongoing event here for about 10 or 11 days now, and most of it, as noted, has been in this portion here of the Cascadia, with a little activity here to the north and a little bit of activity in the southern portion of the Cascadia in Northern California. And that could be contributing to some of the earthquake activity we're seeing around the Gorda Plate and also just around the Northern California area that I mentioned on the map. Although we haven't really seen a lot of earthquake activity up here, which is a little odd, but still kind of watching it, seeing what's taking place there at the Cascadia. Let's go ahead and check out the Mount Rainier area. Not a whole lot of earthquake activity. Can't remember which one's more accurate. I thought there was more stations up there than that, but maybe not. Let's see here. Maybe any day. Perhaps not. I don't know what's going on. Very slow. Okay, that was kind of odd. Normally it doesn't take that long. A little bit of localized earthquake activity but no major movement that I can see there at the seismograph stations at Mount Rainier. Previous day looks about the same. Couple small, very small microquakes in there. I'm not for sure what this is. This looks like maybe a daily adjustment, or something to do with the seismograph itself, because it seems to kick on daily at about the same time. So no earthquake activity that is worth mentioning at the moment there at Mount Rainier. Real quick check again at the solar weather department. Again, about 90% chance of a C flare, 45% chance of an M flare, 10% looks like they elevated it slightly of an X flare, but probability details still exist with 3112, and of course 3119 here. Our sunspot that's kind of facing us has a little bit of a magnetic field that is growing, but it's going to be quiet after this, so we'll see if these sunspots want to give us any departing major flares, which I don't think is likely, but you never know. All right, guys, have a good day. Stay safe out there. We're going to jump off here and enjoy the rest of this Tuesday. There's all that activity ramping up here on the globe. Most of this here is from the EMSC, and it's all a bunch of 2s and 3s, but definitely a noticeable increase in earthquake activity across this region. And also down in the New Zealand area, I don't believe the USGS shown that 4.0. Looks like there was a pretty deep 4.9. That's going to be the Tonga earthquake right there. Little activity along the Middle America Trench as well. So, all right, guys, we'll see how this plays out. Enjoy your Tuesday. Take care. We'll chat you guys a little bit later tonight with the update video. Till then, peace out.